Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are. We're going to start up this technology thing. Hey, there we are. Wow. Thank you all for joining us. Hang on, I'm going to adjust my screen here. Welcome to CollabTalk. If I apologize, I'm sitting in an empty room here. Is it too echoey? Can you guys hear me all right? Thanks, Ben. Yeah. But this is Christian Buckley. I'm here in beautiful Barcelona. It's getting to be evening, kind of late here, on the road for the week, but I'm the Chief Marketing Officer with BZ, and here I'll let the panel introduce themselves. Let's rotate this way, I guess this way. Naomi, introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Naomi Moneypenny. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Many Worlds, just based outside of Austin, and Office 365 MVP, and wishing that I was in Barcelona too, can I just say that? Let's see, Mark.
Hi everybody, I'm Mark Anderson. I'm not chief of anything. That sounds a lot more exciting. I'm with some Praxis Consulting in Boston, Massachusetts in the US, and I'm a SharePoint MVP. And yes, we still exist.
Hi everyone, my name is Benjamin Nyland. I work at ShareGate, and yeah. Hello.
Excellent. And I should have forwarded this, and I have to remember to do this as well. I've got the slides over here with all of our contact information. As always, you can contact any one of us independently if you agree or disagree with anything that we're talking about here. But we definitely love to have the follow-up. And we've got some fun things to talk about today. But we're going to kick things off with a poll. So let me jump over to polls, and it's going to suck up all the bandwidth of the screen here. And we're going to get in and talk about SharePoint 2016, the preview that's going on. We're going to ask this question first. All right. So what version of SharePoint are you using today? So if you can take a second and vote. Just get a sense of what you're using. You can select multiple versions there. No, it's not every single flavor of SharePoint that's possible, but if you look and see that we've had most people voting. And for the Microsoft people that are lurking.
To point out we're using a different.
Oh yeah, I should say that. So those that have watched some of our earlier episodes, we have switched from Adobe over to GoToWebinar. And so some things are a bit different, and as you've probably noticed if you're joining us, you can move some of the things around on your screen yourself to reposition to see the slides and see our beautiful faces. But otherwise, I think the audio and the video should be much better going forward. And I think we're also going to be able to turn around the recordings much more quickly. So if you want to watch previous episodes. So with that, I just want to look at the stats down below. Hopefully everybody can see that. We've got 76% voted. But for the Microsoft people in the room, that's good data here, where 64% of folks are using Office 365, so that's always good to hear. And almost 60% that are on SharePoint 2013. Those people, look at that, 15% still have 2007 running. Nobody on Foundation here, though. Wow. All right, we've got 90% voted. I'm going to switch back over. There we go. All right, so now we're going to jump ahead. Oh, and you know what? I should also just can't forget our sponsors. Thank you to Colligo for sponsoring this episode and participating with CollabTalk. So we got that poll out there. You've seen some of the data. Here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about, again, the SharePoint 2016 preview. And this is, well, I will kind of go into the thoughts about here. We're going to share our thoughts about this. We're also going to talk about Yammer for Teams, and then we're going to talk about change management in Office 365. These are three big topics. Well, certainly change management is a big topic. But we also have, of course, there's some breaking news that's out, so we have kind of a follow-up at the end that we call Mixed Nuts. People keep giving me a hard time about calling it mixed nuts, but I put a visual in there to help. So we'll get there. But let's talk about 2016. What have we learned about 2016? Anybody want to jump in? What have you learned? Book report time.
We have a technical preview. We have a IT professional preview, I think, which is really exciting. And I think seeing how many changes there are on the back end of just how things are working and how they're going to be patched, how they're going to be deployed, all of the different strategies that you can employ there. And then also looking at some of the newest changes around search, which I think is the huge thing. This ability to have hybrid search, so being able to actually reach back into your on-prem environments with SharePoint 2010 and being able to grab some of that content and then surface it up in SharePoint 2016. So I think the preview is very exciting from an IT professional standpoint, right? I think it really is. You see a lot of those big changes that are happening. I think the biggest issue is maybe that from an end user perspective, people don't see anything particularly different on the user experience yet. So, but we'll see how those evolve over time. So.
Well, for those people who are on premises though and haven't been using Office 365, what they are seeing from the user experience perspective is what Office 365 has been giving everyone else. So to them, it actually may seem different enough, but it's still blue and white, so that part won't change. But they will see a difference on premises. It's for those of us who've been staring at Office 365, it's sort of like ho hum. Yep, that's what we've been using for a while now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just if I can just jump in and love SharePoint 2016, but on the flip side, I think it's going to be difficult to tell people that have just finished a migration to 2013, or the user experience may have changed a little bit. But I don't think it's enough in terms of business reasons to justify another migration, even if it could be relatively easy since it's similar to 2013. There's still a lot of cost involved in a migration. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. I think it's a great version. Everything looks great. I love the new features. I'm sure we're going to talk about some of them, notably obviously the hybrid, but it's also available for SharePoint 2013, pretty much exactly the same except for the UI that will be different, of course, when the user goes to Office 365. But if I'm a business and I have a couple of hundreds of users or thousands and we are on SharePoint 2013, I think this release is more to say, look, there's still a lot of people in 2007 and 2010. For those of you, obviously SharePoint 2016 is coming. This is going to be a good upgrade for you. For those on 2013, well, you can better it with the Office 365 experiences. So I think we're in there where people now will have a choice. Either they stay on SharePoint 2013 on premises, go on 2016 on premises, use SharePoint Online, and then connect either one of those three to an experience such as the video portal, the groups, OneDrive for Business, and so on. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Mm-hmm. I think that's what's exciting. I think it's the possibilities that you have, right? This is really what this buys you, I think, from a SharePoint 2016 perspective, is that you have access to the cloud and the solutions, the tools that you have available in the cloud, but you don't actually have to move the content if you don't want to from your on-premises environment. So you don't have to do the lift and shift, right? You can just use search basically to reach back into the content that you have and then bring it back and surface it up in portals. And so I think it's kind of the user experiences that we'll try to see around is really looking from a business solution level of what is that you have to deliver to a specific business process or to a team, and then think about how to optimize that specific experience versus here's a unilateral across the board experience that we're going to deliver. And so thinking about those specific targeted solutions, I think will help in terms of the migration, versus just, get a hybrid search implemented in there, and then thinking about what business solutions specifically you want to target for your environment so that you can upgrade those things. So I think it gives the lots and lots of different options, and I think it really it helps IT to really deliver some of those capabilities much faster. So I think people do win that way.
Well, it's interesting. Benjamin and Naomi, you both brought up the fact that you want to look at what your business needs and think about whether you want to go to this next version in 2016. That's always should be the decision-making process, right? It shouldn't be IT out. It should be business in. And I think Microsoft always has a burden on themselves to demonstrate that there's actually a business case for moving forward, as opposed to just that IT pro, I get some shiny new stuff to play with. And I'm not saying that stuff isn't important, but if it's not something that the end users in the business get some benefit out of, then then you're fine on 2007. I have some clients on 2007, and they're not unhappy. So hopefully, though, we'll see in between now and when the release comes out, we'll actually see that there is a considerable difference in what end users get in the mix, as opposed to just the IT pros.
I'm not entirely sure to expect something, though. I know I keep hearing often people saying, sorry, Christian, but I keep hearing people say, oh, we'll see, this is the IT preview, and we're going to see something else. But personally, I'm not really expecting any other. There's the IT preview, and I mean, maybe there will be one or two things, but and I hope there's a bigger change that makes a business change for those reasons. But right now, I'm expecting it to be pretty much that, with some one or two changes. And maybe we can talk about, I mean, we jumped into SharePoint 2016, but maybe we could cover what are some of those new things quickly. But Christian, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying that, and Dan made a great point over in the comments, and if you do have a comment, want us to see it, you can ask in the questions over on the side. But is that Microsoft has made it very clear that there is going to be a difference, that there will be things for end users as well as IT pros there. What is interesting though, and I think it ties into what everybody's talking about here, and into our third topic today around change management, is that you as a business, you need to look at it as what is the value. And I've heard again and again from Microsoft people as well as from people in the community, whether that question of whether does it ever make sense to move from one to the newest version, or as what we're seeing now with we're just at this place in the maturity of SharePoint where it's you do a double hop, where it's going to make more sense. What we're going to see is fewer people from 2013 moving to 2016, even though it's easier, where the reality is that we're going to see more and more from 2007 and 2010 moving across. I've been in this space long enough now. I mean, I got into Microsoft, into SharePoint in 2005. Always felt like a kind of a latecomer anyway, but have now seen 4 full versions and, of course, the iterations of Office 365. And we seem to have this conversation every time. Like, how are people going to move? How are people going to upgrade? And so my experience, and Ben, you probably have a lot of the same observations, being that we both have worked with migration vendors, is that it's more people that are leapfrogging than moving from the most recent version.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I think that's the path, and I think the less of the user experience issue is going to come up from the platform as a whole, and more around, again, those specific solutions, those experiences, portals, whatever you want to call them, whatever works inside of your company, really targeting those specific solutions and making those upgrade packages and the user interface the way you want them to be. I think that's part of the big benefit that we're going to see, right? It's the ability to have, if you're doing video, in the cloud, and you being able to run that with on-prem, if you're creating solutions for some of the things we're going to talk about a little bit later on, if you're looking at, a team and how you're going to put together personalized, discovery results with, the Office graph results, as well as the documents you're working on, as well as the Yammer conversations, all that stuff. And it's really thinking about how do I optimize those little experiences and have a platform that is able to take that information and be able to manipulate it in the many different ways that we want it to be, and not try to do so much of the one-size-fits-all, right? So I think that's really what we're sort of going towards, and you'll see that as a platform. So I do think that big change is there from a search versus migration part of it. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I was just saying, just to kind of add on to the end of there, and Mark had posted it, to all of us here. We are reading the questions, and Guy asked a great question about, well, Office 365, the SharePoint Online be automatically updated to 2016 as the back end. And I think it's I think it's a little bit the other way around that you need to think about it. As Office 365 is updated, SharePoint Online is where the innovation is going to happen, where then we're going to see updates, I believe, more quickly on the on-premises version. But I don't know if anybody has a different answer to that question about automatic updates as the back end.
Yeah, I mean, I think the SharePoint Online thing is going to see that you're always seeing the latest version basically in the cloud, right? You have the option, of course, around first release, which is a great program as part of Office 365 anyway. So you have the ability to trial those new features in first release, check them out, see how they work. And then you'll also later on, I think probably in the early part of next year, you'll be able to have a first release for your own business. So you'll be able to trial the features inside of your own company and sort of help to manage that. I know we'll talk about that SharePoint in the change management part of this, but I think it's really, you're always seeing the latest version. That's the big benefit of the cloud, right? You're always getting the continuous improvement, and you're seeing those software updates, appear there on the back end as fast as they possibly can.
Yeah, I think, even if you look at the version of Office 365, it's been 16 for a while now. It happens to coincide with 2016. And we've been seeing that under the covers for a while. So as you both said, it's not that way, it's the other way around. Office 365 has been there for a while.
Right. But I think the first release part of it will be really exciting. I think
Christian, you still with us?
Features and be able to see that. So, Christian, are we lost? Do we lose you?
Get a guy type on the panel for a minute. I mute myself so you're not hearing my. Hey, I'm not Ben. I'm not going to rudely type. So come on.
Under typer. So.
Yeah, no, I was just asking the question just out to Guy if he wants if we've answered the question or if yeah. So I guess he has his versions back end, front end mixed up. Now I think that I think the important message here is that I think as Naomi said, I mean that Microsoft understands that there are organizations that have made the decision that it is important to keep an on-premises version of SharePoint somewhere, and while they may do things out in the cloud, have some experiences out in the cloud, that the core of their system or core intellectual property will remain on-prem. And Microsoft has now, I think over the last 1.5 to 2 years, has learned this lesson and is making it possible to easily go and consume that data where it stands, so that you can retain those tight security and those standards, whatever that is, the control that you need to have over that content, but be able to access that and have those web experiences as needed, and make sure that that is, as there are changes to Office 365, I don't think that connection to your on-premises environments will ever go away. It will always be updated because honestly, it's critical to the vast majority of enterprise customers. I think that's one of the lessons, and we can get into another discussion about the use cases for Office 365 versus on-prem, the traditional SharePoint on-prem model. And while Office 365 is growing rapidly, as I go around the world and I talk to mostly enterprise customers, very large organizations, 5,000 users up, that it is. You rushing me already, Mark? Yeah, so I'm sorry, I got to call you out here. He's doing this. He's like, come on, wrap it up. All right. Yeah, that they understand that it's important and they're going to continue to support it. Okay, I'm moving on now. Thank you, Mark.
No, but I wanted to add a little bit on top of that. Because we have, right now, we have very large enterprise customers here in Montreal as well, and we're actually doing an intranet on Office 365, kind of like next-gen portal style, for a company that has 15,000 users here. And it's so I think it'll be more of, it doesn't matter where your SharePoint is, and that's what people are, or that's why I'm trying to trying to say in a way. You can be on 2013 if that makes sense. If you're looking to update, maybe 2016 is going to have right. You guys were talking about how Microsoft made it very clear that there's yet another beta preview. I haven't really seen that yet, but that's great if there is, and we can look at where is my SharePoint platform going to be. If it's going to be on premises, if it's going to be SharePoint Online, that's one product, and that's going to be there. And then we connect to that SharePoint those ready-made experiences that work on mobile devices that have apps like groups, like the planner, like the video portal, like all of these solutions that delve, and you just plug them in to wherever you decide your SharePoint to be. On-prem 2013, 2016, SharePoint Online. For me, SharePoint Online that's in Office 365 is different than Office 365's experiences that use SharePoint. So you choose it, whatever works best for you, and you start leveraging it the best for your organization regardless. And I think they did a great job by adding those updates for SharePoint 2013 to have that hybrid experience to give you the choice as a company.
And 2010, and you can also go and access that content in 2010. So
true enough. I think you still need a 2013 or 16 to do that.
But so, and just to also say, so yeah, we are expecting to see a second preview release before the end of the calendar year as well. So I'm not sure we have a date on that, but yeah, that's coming. But all right, we're going to move to topic number 2. We're going to kick things off with the poll. If I can, I had it here. All right,
that's
there we go.
exciting.
All right, it's a poll. What, the poll? The poll's exciting?
That's really exciting, Christian. I didn't realize.
Because you're never a Yammer. No, kidding.
You're mocking me, aren't you?
Perhaps. We got to do something while they're doing the polly thing, right? Mock each other, tell jokes.
Da, 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 da.
100% voted, but
everybody's voting just to shut him up.
Right, as if we've got 84%. We got some holdouts. If you've not voted, come on.
it says 100% on my side.
All right, is it? All right, it's only showing 84%. All right, I'm going to close it out. Close it. Now let me share the results this time.
Yay.
There we go.
Oh,
Naomi, you're not going to like that number, are you?
No, I don't like that number at all. Ooh, okay.
Which one bothers you more, the yellow one or the purple one?
The purple one, I'm going to say. Just because if you're in the Office 365 area, and if you are not on the Office 365 network, so even if you're going to be completely on-prem, anything else, you should at least be on the yammer.com/ITPro network, because just to keep up to date with all the announcements and see what's going on and have conversations. I don't, why you wouldn't do that? Yes, it's important. So yammer.com/ITPro network. Get on there, people.
I also wonder about the light blue people and how they manage to actually survive in this world. It's the only, I think of social as where I find the answers to my technical questions. It's not just Yetsin about my sandwiches.
But yeah, I think that's the question, and there's such a fine line between the green and light blue, because Microsoft's primary communication channel of what's happening with SharePoint and Office 365 is through the Office, the Office 365 network. So you need to be on Yammer to participate in that channel. It's just, that's where we are in the world, people. All right. Look, I'm hunching down because I'm looking closely at the data.
It's kind of a neat look, actually. Sorry. Anyway,
all right, so I suppose I should forward the question here, the slide. What is Yammer for Teams? And I'll sit up straight.
That's good.
Naomi, you want to take the lead on this?
Okay. All right, so Yammer for Teams, there's all kinds of new stuff coming out, and there was a blog post recently out there. I know we have the link to it somewhere. And there's a couple of different things that are really happening. So you're seeing some of the integration with the groups kind of methodology, I would say, more generally. And you're also seeing some specific concentration on what it is that you need to do for team collaboration. So there have been some upgrades in the user interface. There's also some other upgrades that are coming very soon, really sort of helping to make groups look like a kind of a first-class citizen inside of Yammer, so like a little bit of a sub-site kind of a look to it, and making the menu bar sort of tall across the screen, the header area, and really looking at the other functionality that we can use to interface with other folks, and looking at maybe some of the integrations with Office 365. So what's really cool is looking at some of the new stuff. If you've been looking at Office 2016, which just came out, you can see some of the blog content out there too. And if you look at the integrations that are possible now with Office 2016, you'll see some great content available and the great ways of interacting with Yammer from that perspective. So seeing that integration, that concentration on getting teams working together, having a better collaboration experience, and then really integrating it into the Office 2016 experience and the Office experience generally. So I think these are all really good things, and then we can sort of go into the groups messaging as well, which I know is an important part of it too.
Yeah, I wonder how, Naomi, I know you're deep into this, the Yammer side of things, and I know that you have that religion. How do we help people understand whether it's a team or a group or a whatever the next term is, and there are probably a couple other ones I'm forgetting at the moment. You know, how do people sort of parse all of this out and understand what to use at which time?
Yeah, so I think it's a great question, and it's really looking at the combinations of all these technologies, right? That's important. And so there's a few things that I've done with different customers now over the last few years, and really what I recommend people to do is, number one, you should have a collaboration strategy inside of your organization, right? Do not outsource your collaboration strategy to Microsoft. I'm just going to say that. Number two is to look specifically at the tasks that people are trying to get done. So when you're doing collaboration as a team, you're really looking at what it is that that team's trying to accomplish. What are those tasks that team's trying to accomplish? And you'll see that there is an integration story, right? There's an integration story from a groups messaging at a high level, and I mean groups in a very generic way in that case, not a group specifically. In the conversations that you want to have, you can have them in Outlook if that's what you want. You can have them inside of Yammer, you can have them inside of SharePoint, you can have them next to the document, all of those things. These things will all feed into one area at some point. Right now it's not quite there, but it's getting there. And so it's really, when you're concentrating on what it is that you're trying to get done as a team, it's about having an arrangement from that team, sort of what people want to use and correspond with, but really specifically looking at the tasks that they're trying to accomplish. And it's about enabling those tasks and then understanding then how those technologies map to those tasks. Do not just push the technology onto the teams, right? It's the failure of IT and how we've deployed things that are one size fits all for so many times over the years. And really what we're looking at now is there's a big choice. There's a choice inside of your enterprise in a whole plethora of technologies, just the same way as there is inside of your consumer life. And people figure it out, right? And you have to do some thinking about that and figure out what solution works best for what you're trying to do at that time.
I think people are having a really tough time figuring that out, which is why I posed the question to you. And we see something from Andrea in the question window there that I posted for everybody. And I think that's sort of the common question that I'm getting from my clients is, all these things are coming out. What do I do? And if they don't have a big IT department or some high-paid consultant, then it's confusing.
I think we're in a period also of, it's a transition. Obviously, not everything was done perfectly and at the same time. The way, I think Naomi really said it very well. I don't even look at Yammer groups as a thing even anymore. I just look at groups, people, and then we try to bring in the different products. And the reality today is that there's going to be new products all the time, every other couple of months, not just from Microsoft. There's always going to be something new. We're always going to be evolving very quickly in this new market and this startup world that's getting created, this tech world. So by a way of creating a sort of a logical way of bringing different products together logically, which is what groups are, right? Groups for Office 365 is a way of saying, I'm going to take this little piece, that little piece, this little piece, I'm going to tie it all together, and I'm going to give people that are working within that team or that group of people a way to choose whatever is best for them and work with it, right? So today we create a group and we get the conversations, we get the calendar, we get our SharePoint document library. Eventually we'll get a Yammer group tied into it. And we've already got CRM, we've got a Power BI dashboard. We can get all of these little pieces. It doesn't mean that we're going to be using all of them, though. It's just that as a group of people working, we use different technologies depending on which one is going to help us in our need. So some of us is going to be Yammer. Others we're going to be talking via a chat Slack-like. Others are going to be talking in conversations by email. But it's always going to be tied together, easier to manage in terms of IT perspective. And as we transition, I think the vision is there. I think it's going to take probably a good couple of months, maybe a year, so that we fully get there. Okay, what's Christian Buckley doing?
Sorry, it's late here. Okay, I'll see the point. And they're handing me a key to the building here since I literally came from the airport straight to the office, so I'm now being locked in the office here apparently. So, no, and I was actually listening, Ben, to this, and I think so here's a thought. So Richard Harbridge and Conwell Kippel at Ignite gave a presentation, which honestly divided the audience. People either absolutely loved it or they hated the messaging around that. It was which tool do I use when? And look, I understand the thinking behind that, and I think Mark, and I'll let you talk next. I know that this is kind of where you're going. Was the idea that, and I love that. So Christoph Feisinger talked about the modalities of collaboration, and that some organizations are email-centric in how they collaborate. Others are very much Yammer social-centric. Others are team site-centric. That's how their organizations, the culture works. People are accustomed and comfortable with that. And Microsoft wants to provide these various tools to allow teams to select the tools that fit their needs. So different modalities for different teams for different needs. And I get that. On the same, I guess the other side of that, the same breath I was going to say, is that the organizations are saying that there's too many choices, too much confusion that's out there. And that's, in my mind, that's kind of where you are going with the next-gen portals, with these experiences that Microsoft is developing, that it can be very streamlined where these pieces do work. So when you say that Microsoft is going to keep adding features and capabilities, I think, yeah, they are, as they have the lifetime of SharePoint as a platform and now Office 365. And you as an organization need to think for yourselves of, what fits our needs, what are our business requirements, will this work, or do we need to use a combination of Office 365 and SharePoint Online and some other third-party solution or some other competing technology and SharePoint? I mean, you need to make those decisions, but I think it's what's going to be possible out of the box, those canned experiences, is going to be much more powerful and much easier for people to kind of see how they plug in and utilize all these underlying technologies without having to feel like they have to keep up on every release that's coming out on the roadmap every month to know what's changing. I don't know, Mark, do you have anything to add to that?
I feel like that line in The Princess Bride, you're saying all these words, but I don't think they mean what you think they mean. It's there are a lot of choices, and I think that for most people in the average organization, we're not normal people. We have to remember that. When Ben says, "Oh, you just look at this and you look at this and you look at this and you make a decision and it's no big deal," other people don't think that way, right? They look at all of this stuff and they say, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to do nothing, or it's too confusing to me, so I'm going to stick with the team sites that I know. And making, it's like a decision tree, right? You almost want to see a very simple map, and I've actually posed this to several of you at conferences or something. What's the decision tree? What's the distinction between I want to use Yammer teams or groups or the other groups or the other teams or the other planner or the other whatever? And why would I make each decision? Because people can't evaluate all of these things when you have a 2-person IT staff, or you have this whole enterprise thing sounds good, but those armies of staff don't exist in most organizations that are now going to platforms like Office 365 because of the economics. So I think they're going to keep struggling with this, no matter how many ways we try and say it. They want an answer for which one when.
The problem is, and I understand your point, and you're right. There's going to be it's going to be a tough time where everything is like, I think, similar to going from folder-based to metadata. We're changing a lot of the way we work. But a reality that I see, I mean, and I don't go to customers for 5 months to implement SharePoint, but I try to still go to many of our customers on our services side to at least see what the problems that they're living, to try and see where is there a fit, and where's everything going. And these days, a lot of these organizations, both small and large, the 15,000 employee company that we're going to Office 365 and building the intranet for, their reality is that people are doing their own thing. And if IT can't give them, right, the team sites is too complicated, it's too big, and they've got nothing else, and they need to share with external people, they want to work offline, and what happens is they start creating these Dropbox, and then a team starts using Trello, and then the other one's using Evernote, and then the other one's using these online services everywhere. And then IT has no control over the documents and the content anymore. Slack.com came out of nowhere in a couple of our organizations as well, and I didn't even want to use it here. I tried to block it here internally, and yet now that's all we've got. So we need to have a way to give these people in our organization those alternatives, but trying to keep them in our own circle of things. So I think I understand what you're saying, and I agree, but I feel like we need to have a balance in some way where we need to be able to give them things like groups that they can create themselves. People tell me, how do I block people from creating groups? And that goes against the whole purpose, I find. It's giving them that power to do it themselves, and of course we'll put governance aside of it, but instead of them getting Trello after that, then they can get Planner, which for me is like a Trello for the group. So for me, I see it as alternatives to keep them within, rather than giving them too many choices to get them confused, though that is also a problem that we need to approach in some way. And maybe I'm talking about the vision, and then the reality is a little bit different, of course. And
I think it's the classic adopter curve, right? I think that the people who are early adopters are, we're those people, right? And we say, oh, this makes total sense. But for the people in the big hump of the adopter curve, it's a lot harder. And obviously the people who are in the trailers are those light blue people who don't use social yet. So we have to be able to talk to all of those people, and not just the people who sort of inherently get this. Whether IT is providing the right thing or not, it's people don't even know what they're supposed to do to work differently. And I agree. I'm with you. We all need to work differently in this century than we did in the last one. But getting the skills to be able to do that is an ongoing process. So Naomi, can you actually answer what is Yammer for Teams? Because sure. I don't know.
Okay, so it's a remade functionality that's just been put out there, and it's really much more around the user interface and helping you to discover things. So very specifically, the couple of things that were happening. So as I mentioned before, groups are really becoming a first-class citizen. So they're much more like a destination themselves than they were before. So basically, you're seeing things like a bigger header on the group itself. You're going to see the real-time activity. You may have noticed this if you've seen it in the yammer.com/ITPro network, where when somebody's actually posting, you see like the little icon by them in the group indicator, and it actually shows that somebody's actually posting right that minute. So you have some awareness that people are interacting and posting inside of the group. There's also a much better group updates feed, so inside of your mobile application, you can see all of the groups that you're a member of, and you see those updates much faster than you ever did before, so it helps you to sort of concentrate on the updates from the groups that are most important to you. And then more generally, there's the discovery feed, which is something that's been tested, and you may be already seeing that inside your organization. So instead of the top algorithm, there's a discovery algorithm, and the discovery algorithm has a lot more signals from Office Graph incorporated as part of it. And we don't know all of the secret sauce there, but it's really trying to help discover different conversations that are going on inside of your organization that could be useful to you. And so it's sort of trying to refine that discovery feed that you see on the home page so that you can surface up other conversations that could be useful to you. And so the Yammer for Teams is not like a separate product or anything else like that. It's just an upgrade of the experience that's already there. So if you're already using Yammer, you already have Yammer for Teams. But it's really the fact that groups are becoming much more of a location or a destination, even more so than they were before. And I think that's kind of the important part of it, and seeing some consistency alongside other experiences inside of Office 365, so that the groups kind of look very similar across the different product lines. So, you know, seeing those things, I think it's very helpful from that perspective. And then, you know, doing some collaboration. There's been upgrades on your mobile phone applications too, so you can do things like scribbling on pictures and all that kind of stuff. So, I don't know if you guys have played with that, but that's kind of all part of the Yammer for Teams. You know,
so does it feel a little bit like Delve, where you pin things to boards, where you're starting to?
It's not quite there. Yeah, it's not there yet. It's still much more of the social feed inside of a group. It's just that the group itself is more of a destination than I go visit my network. Instead, I'm concentrating on the group that I'm going to do work in, and I'm using that as the place for collaboration. So there isn't cards, there's no that kind of stuff or any of those kind of destinations.
So it's a group that's focused on getting work done as opposed to a group that's discussing a topic.
Yeah.
So it's more of a, rather than a community of practice, it's actually more like a project-based thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you're just seeing more integration across the different services in Office 365 so that the interface looks a little more consistent. You're not jarred by the experience if you're in a Yammer group versus an Office 365 group. That's my 2 cents.
Same font and everything.
The whole discovery portion of it, the technology there, and obviously Naomi, I mean, you've got the deep science behind that part of it, but if you look at like adoption of social activities, there's a problem, and you hear this a lot about Yammer, where people, even within a group, so we've got a project team, a group that is set up around that project, and we're in there and interacting, people feel like they get lost in some of the dialogues. We get the updates of the new messages, we're bookmarking things, but even still, people say, like, you know, conversation goes by, I'm not sure of some threads that I should be participating in. And so leveraging some of that technology, that Delve-like capability, where it's surfacing it based on your profile, the people that you're directly interacting with, and learning from those behaviors is going to be a powerful and positive change, I think, to how groups function inside of Yammer.
Yeah, and I think it's getting rid of those boundaries, right? I think that's what's most exciting in some ways about Office 365 generally, and we're seeing this Office 2016 upgrade, is that you're getting rid of those silos, the sort of fake silos that we have between applications. And it's a rough journey, don't get me wrong, right? I mean, there's new functionality coming out all the time. You're seeing new groups, new technologies, new ways of interacting. But at the same time, we're breaking down a lot of those barriers. So you're having conversations, and the conversation should transcend whatever application you want to use personally, right? And that's what it's all about. So that conversation, the collaboration, it's really bringing those things together. And so using Delve, using discovery experiences, you know, creating team sites that have automated feeds on them that are specific to you as an individual and what you should be interested in, that's where it's all at, right? It's about you. The whole digital, modern workplace, future work, all that stuff, it's all about you and the context of what you need to do. And that's where we're going to. So, but on the way there, it's going to be messy. It's always going to be messy.
Well, thanks for that, everybody. And we're going to jump to topic number 3. And there we go. How do I manage change within Office 365? And just to kind of you know, kick things off, and you know, Mark, I was going to jump over to you first on the topic, but so I actually some of what we were talking as we were kind of preparing to kick off this session was I added some of the latest news that came out from Microsoft that you can follow on the blog. There's a couple new things that are change management related. The admin console and capabilities are being matured. There's also the new Office 365 Service Trust Portal, and it's so there's some screenshots of some interesting things that are out there that are. I did a session on Office 365 administration in Utrecht, Netherlands yesterday, and shared some of the screens of my company. So just kind of showed how it works and how we're using that. But this question comes up a lot. People, and I think we even had some of the comments over in the previous topics where people are saying, how do we keep up with this? How do we maintain this? How do we stay on top of all of these things? So change management for Office 365, it's a learning experience, I think, for most organizations of how they manage this, how they manage their end user expectations, and how they keep up on top of everything. So Mark, some of your thoughts on this?
Well, we've talked about this in a couple of our episodes, and I think that the problem that a lot of people are struggling with is that staying up with the change that's happening is almost like a full-time job. You have to be reading the Office blogs. You have to be watching the Office roadmap. I should probably put that link up. So there are some sources of information that let us know, and usually in a fairly vague way, what's coming, but not exactly when and not exactly what it is. Now that's sort of the nature of the beast. But then these things sort of pop up in Office 365, and we have to deal with them. They often pop up on, as opposed to as an option. So for the people who are trying to educate their organizations, it can be really tricky. I think that what I saw of the new admin portal, and I think most people who have, most people can go and look at least the video, and if you have first release turned on, you can actually go and take the little mini tour, which I was actually pretty impressed with. Will give us a better interface to understand what's coming, or at least understand how to administer what's there. It seems like a real improvement. I feel like they've sort of borrowed some of the smarts from the Azure admin portal design stuff, which I think is a lot prettier. So it's nice to see that moving forward. But at the same time, if you're somebody who's administrating an Office 365 tenant, you're going to have to be in there reading these things all the time. What's coming? What are these articles telling me? What are they saying between the lines? And how am I going to have to get my users ready for this stuff? And how do I educate them? I think it's still going to be hard. I think it's still a struggle, and it's improving a lot, but there's still a lot of room for more improvement.
I think it's a classic example of why you should be on the yammer.com/IT Pro network, so you can keep up with this stuff.
How would that help, though, Naomi? With 60,000 or 70,000 people in there asking questions all the time, how does that help me find what's new? Is there a specific group?
There are specific groups. So the Office 365 IT Pro group would be a really good one to match if you were interested in the Admin Center. Oftentimes because there are announcements. So even if you don't interact specifically in there, then you are getting announcements from the product teams. And it's easy to see when there's, if there's a bug or something. If you think you're experiencing a bug, you might go check it out there and see if people have a similar issue already and it's being dealt with. So it's kind of, that's a lot of it is part of there. There is also kind of a crowdsourced feature around the change alerts group. So if we find things, right, you see, if you happen to notice some changes out there, oftentimes people will report out in there. And so you can check those groups out. And then there are obviously groups for the specific technologies. So if you're interested in Office 365 groups, if you're interested in Yammer, if you're interested in Sway, if you're interested in whatever, that you'll see that there. And I think it's, it's just like everything in Yammer. Find those groups that are specifically interesting to you. Subscribe to those groups or get the announcements at least from those groups, become members of the groups, and then you will be able to get some of that content, that when you see those announcements out there. I think it just helps, and I do think, we want to have a lot of the stuff, those conversations out there, and having some interactions with the product team, because oftentimes there is the ability to inform what the product team might do as well. So it's a valuable exercise to be out there. So.
But you know, that's the full-time job aspect, though. I mean, just watching those groups that you mentioned is, you know, a couple hours a day because there's stuff going by all the time, and if you miss it, you miss it.
Tell me about it. But I think it's, you know, it is part of that because there should be, in some ways, less administration, right? If we're doing cumulative updates and continuous deployment and all these new features and all this other stuff, the aspect, I think, is we're upgrading or high-grading some of the skills that we have in terms of being able to listen and interface faster with our business, but also listen and interface faster with Microsoft, right? And that's the agility that we want. And so there is no escape from the pace of change. And neither should there be, because the pace of change determines some of our business success and what we can do with the data that actually drives our businesses. So yeah, you know, it's the high grading those skills. So, you know, every 3 years is too slow and every 3 minutes is too fast, but somewhere in between is the right answer.
I found a little trick, you know, combining all of these. Like we said, not necessarily staying in Yammer. The Yammer network, the IT Pro network, I love it, and I try to go when I can for, you know, for consuming the content when I want to. I'll go and browse. But most of the time, when I want to stay on top of things, I've joined the groups that I wanted to hear about, Office 365 groups, Office 365 IT Pro, Delve, and so on. And I've set up the email so that I would only receive announcements, and that's it. Then I follow the blogs.office.com, but I don't go check blogs.office.com. It comes through my RSS feed. So if the title looks like it's something about something new that's coming up, then I'll go ahead and check it out. And then my third thing is we have our real Office 365, and then we have our first release tenant, where we kind of go test out the thing that we heard about in the Yammer as an announcement, or in the blogs.office.com. So it's been going okay to be able to follow these things. I know I have more time than the regular farm admin that has to take care of the entire company at the same time, but we've set up our admin in the same way and some of our customers the same way. And don't miss here and there some things, but generally speaking, with the announcements in the IT Pro network, the RSS feed with the blogs.office.com, they're able to stay on top of things. And then if they need to test how something actually works, I mean, we've got like, what, 3 months before it hits our non-first release tenants. It usually gives us time to at least explore the change and what's happened and get ready in terms of communication. So that's, for now at least, that's how I've been approaching that. And we're starting to see Microsoft introducing these tours. Right? You said it yourself, yeah. So I like that. That's what I want to see. I'm happy that, you know, what I want to see is them hiring a person that's called UX or a QA person that, before anything goes out, tries to use it in a flow of work that makes sense, to be able to see these tours pop. Hey, check this out. You want to take a tour? And I think that will be awesome. But we're in the right direction.
We need to make the product group use everything that they build, which would be just an unbelievable torture. But you know, that's what they need to do, right?
Like, that's the definition of hell, right there. Come on.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I think that there's, you know, there's some great points, and Matt commented over there to also talked about user voice. I mean, and then that's the, you know, the other direction. It's not just about getting the information out of from Microsoft and what's changing, but making sure that you are providing feedback back to Microsoft. You can't just sit and complain about something that is broken or missing or not meeting your expectations and then not follow through and provide that feedback. How are you going? That's the change is a cycle. You know, it's both ways. You need to be providing that feedback back. I mean, one thing that you could do through the Office 365 network is provide that feedback to that channel, but user voice is the official channel for providing feedback back to the product teams about what's working and not working on the products.
That official channel thing does get confusing. I think that, you know, we've had that shift back and forth. You know, sort of where is information coming from and where does it need to go? So that's another part of the job, is understanding where those shifts have happened. Yeah, I'm crazy. Crazy, or should I go faster? Which one?
Well, I was doing the cycle. So David was saying do the cycle. Was this the look that you're looking for? Well, yes, that's what he wanted. While Mark is talking.
One other point, if I may.
I'm not doing it anymore.
Okay, go for it. Sorry. Sorry, one other point, serious point. Just the sort of the methodology that we have with Yammer from an ambassador perspective, right? Having a champions network, that kind of thing, for deploying it inside of your company. You should be doing exactly the same thing. You should have a champions, early adopters, whatever it is, network inside of your company for deploying Office 365. Right, because Office 2016 is coming out, right? So let alone Yammer, SharePoint, and everything else. Now you can do all sorts of kind of cool charts in Excel, right? And you can do all kinds of upgrades that are part of the Office 2016, products that you actually put on your desktop. So those kinds of things, you need to have an early adopters program inside of your company and have a champions program inside of your company. And that is one of the ways that the fastest way to disseminate this kind of information across your company is through networks. And it's going to be networks with champions, and whether it's you have an Excel community of practice on your Yammer network or your groups or whatever, but having those kinds of network effects inside of your company for disseminating the stuff. We're getting much more into the, training is in the context of what you're doing, and it's at the time that you want to consume it. So the formalized training programs, that kind of stuff doesn't work. Really thinking about the Office 365, having it as a first release inside of your company, and then early adoption inside of your company, and keep iterating those cycles of how the knowledge gets dispersed. Because it's the only way to it's the way to keep up, but it's also the only way to have people consume the features that they need at the time that they need them. So the when you need the training is much more important than the the when and the why is much more important than the actual how of it. So,
I was just to kind of wrap this topic. This is something that over the last couple of years, we've all had a lot of conversations with Microsoft about this. And it was at the annual MVP summit last year that we were all at. Was this question of change management actually came up, and there's Microsoft is saying, look, we recognize it. We're trying to make the admin console as streamlined as possible. We're learning from the community with feedback about how we're providing this information. We need feedback on whether it's working, whether we need more, whether we need less. And they know that it's not perfect, that they need to iterate on that. So just keep providing the feedback. But I think we are seeing iterations on the admin console and things like the Service Trust portal to see like the status of the platform and whether it's complying with my my governance and compliance of regulatory requirements. How the system is performing. Providing better messaging around what's happening with the environment so I can communicate that quickly out to my end users. It's all improving over time. Just for the last couple minutes, I did want to move it over to our mixed nuts category because we had news that was out. Yeah, see, I've got a graphic there. That's what I'm talking about, people. A can of nuts, not other stuff. Come on, get your minds out of the gutter. We had the announcement about the Office 365 Planner, and we're actually, for those of you wondering what we're going to talk about next month, this is at the top of the list. So we're going to get in there. It was announced, and there's some pretty pictures and things that are out there that you can take a look at. But this is, whether you call it a next-gen portal, a new experience, but it is something that is within the group's functionality. It uses some of the, as Ben product name dropped earlier, the Trello-like, the Kanban list-like capability to track activities, projects, things like that. It's in groups. It's, of course, using SharePoint on the back end. It allows you to track tasks and other things. So some really cool stuff to go and look at. And in the 2 minutes that we have left, any other thoughts on what you saw in the news about Office 365 Planner? Ben, maybe let's start there.
I think it's exciting to see all the tasks and activities that are going on there and being able to have that with a collaboration experience. I think it's fantastic to see this stuff. There's also a great article out on IT Unity, so you can go check that out too. It sort of goes through the details of what Office 365 Planner actually means, so check that one out. But I think the tasks and activities are the next big thing that people really, really want. And that's kind of the experience I think we've been missing so far, seeing those integrated tasking and project teams collaboration across the board. So really, really cool stuff.
Ben now? Ben? Maybe?
Yeah,
Ben?
I'll jump in a little bit. Office 365 Planner. I mean, we haven't been able to play with it at all yet. So from what we've seen, from what it looks like, it feels. If you're familiar with Trello and other tools, possibly, I saw a lot of similarities and very excited because it's something that I like to use, something that I want to see for groups in Office 365. So kind of see it like this: you're a group, you're a team of people, you're working, and obviously there's going to be some kind of task management. The way that it is you get a board, or it's going to be, I don't know how it's going to be called in Office 365 Planner, and then in this board you'll have lists or columns. These columns will be named. It could be something like backlog or to-do, and then the next column is going to be doing, and then the last column is going to be done. Right? You can name these columns the way that you want from what it looks like, which is perfect. And then you have tasks or cards if you want. And it looks like these are very rich cards. You can insert videos, you can insert pictures, rich media in them, and you work directly sort of in the card, right? You're working on your Word documents elsewhere, but the card is the task itself. You can assign a due date, you can assign a person to these cards, and therefore, when you're managing this team towards a common goal or a project to get to the end, you're seeing where the cards are, and like you said, Kanban style or however, Scrum, whatever card style, you just kind of move them to the right, and that signifies the end. What's interesting and what I really like is the second screenshot that they show, which was statistics and analytics on that group's dashboard, on that planner. I'm not comfortable with the words yet. It was announced yesterday, but you get to see the stats on this. How many are still unassigned? Where are they at? When are they due? When is coming soon? And it looks very interesting, very promising. I cannot wait to be able to get my hands on it and try it out and use it here, right? And get started with it. So at the same time, we saw the new app for groups come out for iOS, Android. This is all coming together very nicely. The app is really nice. I'm very impressed. The feel, the usage is very nice. So bringing all that together, once again, if we're getting there. So very exciting. Mark, what did you think? Did you explore Planner, the blog post a little bit?
Yeah, just about as much as you have, but I think what we're seeing is that the humble task is moving into the 24th century too, 21st century. Well, 24th, maybe it'll be good enough to last that long. I mean, I've been building veneers like this on top of task management for a while now, as clients have needed it, and I think it's great to see a more, I mean, obviously much richer than I've built in any of my, because they've got Microsoft doing it. And I think we'll see that this kind of an interface, this new way of managing units of work has been going on for a while inside organizations. So this tool is catching up to that.
And that's, I thank you, Naomi, Ben, Mark, for joining us. Thank you to Caligo for sponsoring this episode. Of course, keep the conversation going. You can follow along on Twitter or on Yammer using the CollabTalk hashtag. Please spread the word about CollabTalk. And if you go over to IT Unity and sign up, just go under the various web shows and register for this event, then you'll be on the spam list, the email list, for just this show, not the rest of everything else that's going on there, unless you select that. To wrap this up as well, don't miss episode 10. It's going to be October 19th. So, and yes, we'll be talking more about Office 365 Planner. Thanks a lot for joining. See you guys. See you, everybody. Bye. Bye.